In the past 2 years, I've built and grown a cold email agency from 0 to 3.6 million per year. It took 24 months, and in this video, I will tell the story of my agency, break down how we got there, and what I would do if I were starting from scratch all over again. So let's jump right in. I had the idea of Code Like You in 2020. I actually built my website in January 2020, but it's only in January 2023 that I committed full time to Code Like You. I had just gotten fired from my job, like I actually had the past 3 jobs, and I decided it was time to properly bet on myself. So I thought about my skills, and I realized that the only constant in my 4 past years of work was that I ran outbound campaigns in every company I worked at or tried starting. So I actually ran outbound to find clients for a Facebook ads agency that I started in 2019, which actually failed. I used cold outreach to promote an online lottery that I started in the UK, which also failed. I used cold outreach to get backlinks for an SEO company I worked for, and I did it to help the sales team in a pet GPS tracking company. Finally, I also used cold outreach to help a crypto agency find clients, as well as an AI SaaS and an AI agency. And so I guess the moral of the story is that when it comes to starting a new company, it's worthwhile to consider your experience and leverage whatever your best skill is as a point of entry into business. The only way to know if your business is viable is to find someone willing to pay for your service. You can build a fancy website, set up your social profiles, ask feedback to your friends, but whatever people's opinion, you'll only know your business is worth pursuing if or when someone puts money in your pocket. So as I said, I started a cold email agency, but this wasn't really my initial plan. I had started many businesses, which failed for the most part, but in 2018, I had a gambling comparison website that brought me up to 8k euros per month in passive income. So it was monetized through affiliate commissions. That is, I would get a sum of money every time someone registers to sport betting websites using my link. But unfortunately, the regulations in Belgium changed, which meant that sports betting websites could no longer offer welcome bonuses to attract new players. I'll spare you the details, but the whole point of my website was to compare which bookmaker had the best welcome bonus, which made it useless overnight. I went from 8k per month to 0 in just under 2 months, and it was time to rebuild. So in the meantime, I tried a few businesses, but when I decided to try an idea around cold outreach, I had this belief in mind that I could replicate this affiliate business model. My idea was that I could share as many resources as possible around cold outreach, register to some affiliate programs, and get commissions from the traffic I would send to all the websites mentioned. So here it was, my big idea. I would start a website that curated the best cold email resources in the world. I would write articles and optimize the website via SEO, which would then bring a lot of traffic to my website. And then I would find a way to monetize this traffic, most probably through affiliate links. But as I started resharing resources, I realized there was no point in sharing guides, ebooks, and blog posts from random places because it was pretty difficult to monetize. But there was one thing that was pretty easy to monetize, and these were the tools. And the reason for that is that most tools have an affiliate program which will grant you 25 to 40% of all of the revenue you generate for them. Typically, these affiliate programs pay you for 12 months, meaning that if, for example, you will refer a client to a company like Clay and they made, say, 100 per month, let's say that the commission was 20%, you'd make $20 per month for the next 12 months. And so this was how I wanted to make money, because it just seemed to me that it would be an idea where I could make a lot of money while not having to talk to anyone. And this just sounded like a dream to me. I was actually already dreaming of those 5k euros passive months. So what I did is that I started writing articles with the objective of redirecting the traffic to the websites of these SaaS applications, thinking that soon enough I would be able to live off these commissions and I wouldn't have to work that much. Because I needed to generate a substantial amount of traffic, I started writing articles around cold outreach tools. So I will explain what tools to use for each purpose, how to automate any sort of sales activity, which sales platform to use for which situation, and so on and so on. The issue is that writing these articles took a long time and were not generating that much traffic. It seems there were much fewer people interested in sales prospecting tools than in sports betting bonuses. So I kept writing articles until one day I received a message from the founder of a 90-people software company. It was like, "Hey Michel, I read some of your articles and they are pretty interesting. I was wondering, do you also offer this as a service?" And so as I mentioned, I was actually trying not to do cold outreach service because I like the idea of generating revenue without having to speak to anyone. But I just thought, you know what, I need cash, I'll just give a price, and if he says yes, I'll do it. So I just said 3k per month, and he said yes. And so that's actually how my agency was born. So as I started working for this first client, I realized that despite taking me a good chunk of time, I could deliver the service by spending only 1 to 2 days per week. And so I think this is the beauty of setting up outbound sales campaigns. You spend a lot of time on the strategy, the setup, the copywriting, on building lists to launch these campaigns, but when you launch and it hits, the leads keep coming in, and you simply have to ensure the lead flow keeps on coming. So the client was extremely satisfied with my work, which made me realize that if I improved my speed, I could probably serve 5 clients on my own. The math was pretty straightforward. 5 times 3K per month meant 15K per month, and I just didn't know anybody in my circle that was making that much money. It seemed that the best way to generate revenue was to deliver these services at scale, so everything was pointing to creating an agency. I decided around February 2023 that the move was to find more clients. What did I do? I started sending cold emails. So my first campaign targeted founders and CEOs of small companies, so up to 15 people, that were currently hiring salespeople. There wasn't that much logic for the targeting criteria, except for the fact that I tried selling sales automation, whatever that meant, instead of pure outbound services. I used Instantly to run this campaign, and my pitch was something along the lines of, hey, I see you're hiring salespeople. What if I could automate some of their activities so they will be more productive? So I think I completely missed this campaign. My targeting was completely off because almost no one replied positively, except for this one guy who I think didn't understand what I was selling, but still asked for a meeting. So we jumped on a call, and the guy was trying to promote a big in-person event, and he asked me if I could use my email automation tricks to get him more attendees. That's still funny because this was not what I was pitching at all, but I guess the universe works in mysterious ways. So I said, I can do this. I sent a proposal and I closed the deal at 1 a.m. from my hotel room in Bali. And for context, it was actually 10 or 11 a.m. in Chicago. So I closed the client for 4.8K per month for 2 months. And I was now at 7.8K per month from just 2 clients, which was more money than I ever had earned as an employee. It was the end of February 2023, and it seemed that this business thing was probably about to work. And so just as a side note here, if you offer any type of marketing service, try to use the skill you are selling to find clients. And the reason for that is twofold. Aside from previous work experiences, it's likely that you don't have that much social proof, which will make it much more difficult to close deals. That said, by leveraging the mechanism you are selling to find clients, you are creating your own social proof by demonstrating expertise. As an example, when I started ColdIQ, I ran cold outbound campaigns to book meetings with potential buyers, and the promise I was making them was, hey, I'm going to run cold email campaigns to book meetings with your ideal clients on your behalf. And if they'd ask, how do I know that this will work? I would say, hey, you're talking with me, right? So you can see it works. The second reason is that it will force you to upskill yourself before having delivered any work for your clients. Treat yourself as your first client and experiment as much as you can. By the time you sign your first client, you'll have gained valuable experience. Now, whatever way you go about signing your first client is not as important as the fact that you sign them. And when you do, you should do anything in your power to get them great results. Because as fast as possible, you need to stack up testimonials, which will make it much easier for you to close the next client. That said, one of the fastest ways to do that, aside from collecting testimonials, is to post content on social media. And so, because I also had a marketing background, I knew the power of brand and the nature of organic content. It's typically a long-term activity that you want to start as early as possible and which compounds. It also helps every single one of your other efforts. Think about it this way. When you reach out to strangers online, you're a scammer until you prove them otherwise. Having a social presence and a few publications explaining how you do what you do on LinkedIn or any social media for the matter helps with that. And so one unfair truth I learned later on when it comes to cold outbound is that who you are matters as much, if not more, than what you send and who you send your message to. I wrote a post some time ago that started with, imagine receiving a cold email from Alex Hormozy. And let's even say it's the shittiest cold email you ever received. Would you reply? Because I know I would, whatever it tells me. So the fact that he is who he is means that you want to speak with him. And this is what you want to achieve for yourself by creating great content. So at the beginning of March 2023, I decided to commit to publishing on LinkedIn every day of the week. I knew that if I were going to fail, it would be most likely because I would give up or I wouldn't be consistent enough. When I worked in previous companies, I actually tried posting on LinkedIn and I gave up a few times. So this time, I decided to commit. I told myself I would publish 5 times a week for 3 months and that whatever happens, I would stick to it. I decided I wouldn't count on it to generate inbound leads, but more so as a way to support my outbound efforts. And I truly believe this distinction is very important. In the beginning, you don't want to treat content as a way to generate inbound leads, but as a way to create trust, which will support the rest of your efforts. The reason why it's important to think this way is that you won't get discouraged if you don't see much results after the first few weeks. In the end, my assumption was that when prospects will receive my cold emails, they will probably check me out on LinkedIn, and because I exist on the platform, they would be more willing to jump on a meeting with me. So as I started posting on LinkedIn, I would continue to run outbound campaigns. I tried different niches and different campaign angles, and I was doing both posting on LinkedIn and running outreach campaigns at the same time. In the beginning, LinkedIn didn't bring me anything. I wasn't able to book a single inbound meeting for a month. The outbound though was promising. I started sending AI personalized videos to AI agencies, and I booked 12 meetings in a couple of weeks. And so funny enough, I would ask them in the meeting, did you realize that the video that I just sent you was actually personalized through AI? And most of them, they were like, wait, no, I didn't know. And so I thought, if AI software can fool AI engineers, then they can probably fool the rest of the world. By the way, if you're looking for AI sales tools, we've actually got the most comprehensive list of AI sales tools at codeiq.com/AI-sales-tools. So check it out and let me know what you think. I also recorded a video where I talk about my 7 favorite AI sales tools, so make sure to check it out. So anyways, the issue with this meeting is that none of them were closing. It seemed that it wasn't the best time to pitch this kind of agencies. With all the OpenAI buzz, I guess they were getting too many clients, so I would have to experiment with other niches. The good news though was that I was able to book a good number of meetings, both for myself and for my 2 clients, which proved once more that outbound was a very efficient mechanism for driving leads. The other good news is that I was constantly posting on LinkedIn despite not seeing any results. I had promised myself that I would stick to it no matter what, and I was proud that I had posted for a full month without fault. I actually had this Google sheet on which I would add a cross next to each date I posted, and it was super cool to see that for once in my life I could remain consistent at one thing, and then I would look at the Google sheet and I would just see like lots of cross. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I recommend doing something along the lines of that. So I had been posting 30 times in a row and I still hadn't gotten any luck. This meant that I had been doing it for 1.5 months already and I hadn't generated a single lead from LinkedIn. We were around April 2023. It was a Monday, which was a national holiday. I started having some serious doubts about LinkedIn posting. I remember one day being in my bed around 10 p.m. as I was a bit sick and I was trying to find some excuses not to post on that day. So I was telling to myself, oh hey, it's a national holiday, it doesn't count, I'm sick, let's not do it. And I knew I was making excuses. So somehow I gathered the courage to compose a few sentences together and I hit the publish button. AI was generating a lot of hype at the time, so I found a few great resources on AI applied to sales. I shamelessly plugged my list of AI sales tools and I went to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, for reasons still unknown to me, the post went completely crazy. 610 likes, 51 reposts, 129 comments, 146,694 impressions. To this day, I've only had a couple of publications that generated as much impressions on LinkedIn. So this was the day I was about to give up, and it looked like I was rewarded by God, by the universe, for pushing just one more time. Always makes me think of this image where you have this guy that's digging for diamonds, and he just returns and goes back from where I came from as he's about to reach them. I often think about how different my life would be if I hadn't published on this day. And so I guess the lesson here is that if you want to get lucky, you need to show up every day. You cannot control luck, but you can control your exposure to luck. From this publication, I booked around 30 meetings and 3 of them converted to clients. Not the best close rate, I know. I also had a cold outreach campaign running at the same time that got me another client. So I went from 2 clients to 6 in a couple of days. It was pretty weird because for some reason they all accepted my proposal on the same day. And so there is this reel from Daniel Fazio, the cold email wizard, that I read back in the day that I actually love, which says, nothing happens for so long and then everything happens all at once. You would think that growth is linear, that you would go from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 and so on. But actually that's not the case at all. It was 0 to 1, 1 to 2, and then 2 to 6. And actually I had no idea how I would handle all of these new clients, but the opportunity was too good to pass on. It was around the beginning of May 2023, and I was generating 15.7k in monthly recurring revenue. So when you're on your own, fulfilling the work for 6 clients, while marketing yourself and taking all the sales calls, things can get messy pretty quick. At this time, it was just me, and I had an assistant in the Philippines who was helping me update my website. Because of this, I didn't always deliver the best results. But also, I realized in this world of business, many people won't hesitate to fuck you. One client never paid a 4.4k euros invoice, and I quickly understood that there wasn't much I could do about it. I took it as a learning experience. I'll ask money upfront from now on. But once again, I got lucky. Around this time, my friend Alex Vaca was looking for a career change. We would often chat because we were always interested in business, growth, and technology, and Alex was working at WorldCoin and he wanted to start a new project. He was always a fan of new technologies, was always looking for the new best gadget, and he thought AI was the future, so he started creating content around AI tools of all sorts. During one of our talks, I remember telling him that if you were going to make content around AI technology, he would be better off niching down on AI tech related to revenue. I actually don't know how I came up to this conclusion. I guess I was just trying to get him to contribute to promoting to this list of AI sales tools that I had created. He also wanted to learn how I was running my outbound campaigns. So his reasoning was that These were skills he'd always be able to leverage for any venture he'd want to start in the future. He suggested he could start working with me for free, and I actually enthusiastically took him up on the offer. So shortly after, I started teaching him how I was running cold email campaigns, how I was creating secondary inboxes, how I was doing my copywriting, how I was personalizing my emails, and so on, and so on, and so on. As I started working with Alex, I realized he was picking up the skills super fast. So I followed a few of my clients to him, for whom he delivered great results. I used to be taking all of the sales calls, doing all the marketing, and taking care of all the delivery, but I slowly shared the burden with him as he started taking on sales calls as well, and started posting on LinkedIn too. In the beginning, he would mainly take my posts and repost them a few weeks after, which is something I recommend doing because people forget LinkedIn posts pretty quickly. The takeaway here is that if you got some great performing posts, either repost them later down the line or have your team post the same thing, as it's likely that if they perform well once, they will perform well once again. So anyways, Alex coming in brought the business to a new dimension. I was no longer a solopreneur posting some decent tips on LinkedIn. We were now a team whose audience were growing at a pretty good pace. So we started setting up some systems, outsourcing and delegating some repetitive tasks, and preparing the agency for scale. I already had a marketing assistant that helped me build some directories of tools such as prospecting tools and a directory of AI sales tools. This directory of AI sales tools that I actually had started with my assistant April started ranking #1 on Google and was getting more and more traffic, which was generating leads for our agency as well as affiliate commissions. So we also started an overseas team to handle mailbox creation, to set up secondary domains, inbox management, and other related tasks. This freed up time for me to launch outreach campaigns targeting specific industries, and these campaigns generating 100+ leads in 35 to 40 days. Between the inbound and the outbound, we actually had too many leads coming in. Folks were pissed because we were not responding to them after we had sent them an outreach email. So we decided it was best to pause the outbound to give us time to handle our lead flow properly. After working for a few weeks with Alex, I decided to officially make him Chief Operating Officer. Like you. Around the same time, I discovered Clay. I think I randomly bumped into a LinkedIn comment which made me curious. The cool thing about Clay is that it has a huge library of tutorial videos, which means you can understand what it can do without even signing up. So I binge watched 30+ videos and I knew I had to add it to my tech stack. As I started using the platform, I was blown away. I used to outsource personalizing first-line snippets to a team of 5 people overseas. Clay had this AI agent that could do the same work for me in 15 minutes. So Clay became a central piece of our agency. We were managing 14 clients just between Alex and I, which was actually challenging in terms of work-life balance, but we were still getting pretty good results. We knew we needed to hire an additional person, but thanks to tech, the work was still bearable. So given that our number of clients was still increasing, we started to struggle delivering a good service, and we had made a hire that wasn't a great fit a bit earlier. But once again, it seemed we were blessed. Dan Rosenthal offered to do some free work for Code Like You. He wanted to learn about sales technology and AI applied to outbound sales. His initial plan was to launch his own agency. We'll teach him how to build Clay tables early mornings and late evenings, and he was so great that he ended up joining the business as head of operations just because we begged him to do so. To this day, I believe he's still the greatest person to deliver services and results to our clients. At this time, we were generating around $30,000 per month, and we were around October 2023. This really showed me the power of personal branding. The reason why Dan joined us is because he was seeing our posts on LinkedIn. Had we not been posting that consistently, we would probably never have crossed paths with Dan. Today, he's an integral partner of our company. He owns some stake in the firm, and I trust him to lead Code Like You's most ambitious projects. As we were able to trust Dan on service delivery, we could free up more time to get more clients in the door. And so this is when things started to accelerate. The fact that bringing on great individuals had such an impact on the business made me realize that the people you surround yourself with are everything. And I learned this lesson again with one of the next people who joined our company, Fivos RST. Fivos had one of the fastest ramp-ups in the history of our business. He would be delivering great work for our clients while listening to my sales calls, and we actually have this meeting software recorder called Attention. And so Fivos would send me messages saying, oh, you could have closed them on the spot if you had said this or if you had said this other thing. So at some point I figured, you know what? Since you are so interested in taking these calls, just start taking some and we'll see if you're able to close some of these calls, right? So he actually started doing this on top of his client's work. And not too long after, he just turned into a closing machine. I don't know the exact numbers, but to this day, he has closed more than $2 million in annual revenue. Once again, with client delivery out of the way, as well as sales calls, I was able to shift all my focus on generating as much pipeline as possible for the agency. So this is when I decided to double down on content. I ended the year 2023 with 9,000 followers on LinkedIn. As it stands, I've got a bit over 30,000 LinkedIn followers, and our LinkedIn strategy was responsible for booking 1,000 meetings and generating over $2 million in closed revenue. To tell you how much content is important, I actually spent the winter of 2024 in Bali, so January to March, and during this time frame, I spent most of my focus on training the team, improving processes, and getting better results for our clients. So I wasn't as consistent when it came to content creation, and I directly saw the impact on our pipeline generation. We were not booking as many prospects calls as we used to. As I analyzed what were our best acquisition sources, it became clear to me that content was our biggest edge over our competition. So I went back all in. But on top of that, I started to train my team on the strategies I was using to grow on LinkedIn. I actually made a video about it if you're interested. Founder-led content is an acquisition lever that was becoming more and more popular, but empowering your employees to post as well is something I hadn't seen that much. I actually talked about it in a video that you can see here. Most companies are afraid that if their employees post on social, they will either damage the brand or find better opportunities and leave. Funny enough, we see none of that. Getting paid to grow your brand being an asset that you own, actually has proved to be one of the greatest ways to attract A players. The other thing though is that when you think of the business model of an agency, it requires people to scale. When you start, it's just you. So when clients hire you, they know they will be working with you. As you scale, you start delegating some of the work. And even though people from your team could be better than you at delivering the service, the perception is I buy Michel's brand, but I get someone who doesn't seem as knowledgeable. Having a team post means that they're not just buying into your brand as a founder, but they're also buying into the brand of your employees because they are also showcasing their expertise real time on LinkedIn. In my opinion, if your audience lies on LinkedIn, it's a no-brainer to have your team post. So in 90 days, our team generated a combined 4,104,960 plus impressions on LinkedIn. And these were responsible for booking 356 meetings that led to adding $80,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Here was the breakdown for each member who posted more than 3 times within the last months. And to put things into context, if we wanted to get the same amount of impressions with ads, we would have had to spend over $120,000. Many people were already motivated to publish on LinkedIn, but to add to this motivation, I got the idea of creating an internal challenge at the beginning of Q2. So whoever who had the most publications with at least 20 likes would get a $1,000 prize. Imagine that, a $1,000 prize to generate $80,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Would you take this investment? As you guessed, we actually doubled down on this challenge and we're now running it every quarter with even better prices. So by the end of July 2024, we were making around $150,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Another great benefit of all the impressions our posts were getting is that it created some high intent audiences. Think about it. A lot of people are engaging with your post, visiting your website, looking at your profile, and very often they are close to reaching out to you, but for many different reasons, they simply don't. And so we were already doing outbound both for ourselves and for our clients. We were already generating a lot of inbound thanks to the content we were putting out on LinkedIn, but both these motions were running in silos. So we leverage these high intent audiences that we built thanks to our content, and we leverage our outbound skills to reach out to them in a very relevant way. So let me explain what it looks like in practice. You create content. Based on your content, you have people that visit your website, so website visitors, people who engage with your post, people who view your LinkedIn profile, and people who follow you. And with each of these profile type, there is an opportunity to re-engage them. If someone liked your post and are part of your ideal client profile, you can simply send them a message and be like, hey, I saw you engage with my latest post. And you say, thanks for that. I'm curious if something specific caught your attention. It's really not about pitching your offering. It's just about starting a conversation with a potential buyer. And when it comes to sale, typically the more conversations you have, the more deals you close. By simply implementing this strategy, we generated 162 meetings for ourselves in the month of June alone. So at the same time, we started mixing things up when it came to client acquisition. We started adding new channels such as SEO. So what we did is we ramped up our blog article productions. To this day, we don't have the most organic traffic, but we're getting over 28,000 visits to our website every month, and we are ranking pretty high on Google for some interesting keywords such as AI sales tools. We also started playing around with LinkedIn ads. So that got us and is still getting us great results. So there are many format types, but one thing I love about LinkedIn ads is that it works well with organic content on LinkedIn. So imagine you make a post on LinkedIn and the post gets shown to 5,000 people. But from there, you actually book 3 meetings with VPs of sales in some software companies. So now you have a post angle, plus you have the exact persona that decided to book a meeting with you as a result of this post angle. Because you've got both this information with LinkedIn ads, you can simply decide to expose this publication to more of these personas. So in this example, to more VPs of sales, which means this proven post is shown to more of this proven audience. I won't go into details, but I recorded a breakdown of our acquisition channels and our acquisition funnel right here, so make sure to watch it. So this brings us to the end of September 2024, and for the first time we crossed 200,000 in revenue in a single month. One thing we started doing at this point is we started experimenting with new offers. We had the agency, which is still the main revenue maker for us. The market seemed to be wanting to learn about AI sales, so we actually added a coaching program that has more than 200 students and generated over over 300,000 in revenue, and we came up with a new email infrastructure offer. So that's for companies that want to be running cold email campaigns on their own, but don't want to be complicating their life by running their own email infrastructure. So thanks to these two offers, we actually managed to make close to $270,000 in revenue in October. As I mentioned, to this day, our agency is still the main revenue source of our business and makes over $250K per month on its own. And I actually believe it's fine to experiment with other offers and business models, but I believe that the quickest path to hitting more revenue is to actually focus all your attention on one business model at a time. So this brings us to today, the 9th of February 2025, as I'm recording this video. For the first time, we actually crossed $300,000 in revenue in a single month. So this was the month of January 2025. And as you can guess, in order to push even further and to reach 1 million per month, we're actually tripling down on content, which is the reason why I'm recording this YouTube video. So if you want to follow the journey of Code Like You further, don't hesitate to subscribe to this channel. Don't hesitate to follow me on LinkedIn. It's Michel Liben. Don't hesitate to subscribe to our newsletter. And if you are starting an agency, I wish you good luck, because I know for a fact it's a very challenging journey, but I think it's well worth it. Have an amazing day, and bye-bye.